Part 33. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 321. Not to mention the holy monk, that is an existence that Sugu cannot reach. That bald head is not just a bald head. Even if you apply some oil and wipe it with a cloth, you may be blinded under the sun, but a bald head is not a bald head. It is faith. It was a pity that they were not familiar with each other, so Sugu had no intention of going up to say hello. He just touched his head, feeling quite frightened. He said a few words to Lindy and then walked away. After all, he didn't come here this time to meet these old admirals. The main reason is that I want to walk around and see my classmates. Also, if you want to go back to your residence, Akaga's house is inside the college, so you're just on the way. Sugu was a pioneer. Because of Akaga's relationship and the involvement of Chi Bolin, a highly qualified instructor in the academy, he got the opportunity to go out for internship early. Although at first, Nelson strongly opposed it and was under great pressure. But now Nelson had to admit that there was really no need for people like Sugu to continue studying in the academy. Although Sugu has gone out, there are still many students at the same level as him in the college, some of whom he has good relationships with and whom he has not seen for a long time. The college occupies a huge area. After all, when the college was first built, Sichuanjiu was not as expensive as it is now. Logically speaking, even if the Naval Academy exists to train admirals, there is no need to build it so big. However, the headmaster Zhan Hao is very discerning and can see the future development of Chuangziu. All in all, he has circled a lot of places. There is a lot of greening in the college, full of trees, flowers, and plants. At the main entrance, a huge anchor from an abandoned battleship was thrown there as a souvenir. Although the era of battleships has passed, the sacred relics of the huge battleship are still quite intimidating. The environment is beautiful, with birds singing and flowers fragrant. The college can almost be regarded as a park. It's just that the college is only open on weekends or holidays. On weekdays, outsiders are generally not allowed to enter. Now the college seems a bit empty. Is this the academy where the admiral studies? Beizai unexpectedly did not show off her otaku nature. She was wearing a white dress and sandals, with one hand in her medium-length pink hair, looking up at the sky, feeling quite peerless and isolated. Of course, if the troublesome expression on her face is replaced by indifference, then the expression will be just right, the lonely queen of the north. You have lived in Sichuangziu for so long, but you have never been here. No, there was a matter-of-fact look on her face. The Naval Academy actually does not have many students. After all, those who can become admirals are only a minority among the minority. There is no way to compare them with the university in Sugu's memory. Moreover, even if the academy can recruit enough generals, there will be so much steel to squander. There are only a few classes in a grade. Generally, you can get internship opportunities after studying for 1 year. You rarely meet a senior, and even if you do, they are just old salted fish. Sugu took Beizai and found no one in several familiar classrooms. Finally, he saw a classmate walking out of the teaching building in the corridor on the 3rd floor. That was the admiral named Duma, a rather dirty guy without much moral integrity. Sugu was relatively familiar with the other party, but the other party had already walked out of the building. He was still on the 3rd floor and had no intention of running downstairs. Sugu looked at the man and said to Beizai, "Have you seen that man? You didn't publish a book before, but he bought your book, so he can be regarded as your reader." He originally thought that Beizai would be excited. After all, as a book painter, he should feel honored to meet his own readers. However, only the sound of "oh" was heard, and Beizai behaved quite blandly. "Hey, that's your reader, your reader. Why would I dare to be interested in a stranger?" Well, we have to admit that Beizai is also a ship girl in addition to the attributes of a home girl. Apart from being interested in the admiral, the book, and the sisters of the garrison, there is not much interest of. Sugu went down from the teaching building and met two more female classmates. Sugu was not familiar with the two of them, so he simply said hello. He didn't meet any familiar classmates in the teaching building, which made him feel a little lack of interest. Then he walked through the college library and was about to return to his residence when he suddenly heard a greeting. So this name that was called by York City was widely circulated in the college. Sugu turned around and saw an admiral with a little girl named Danyang. Finally meeting a familiar person, Consultant Su said, "You guys have just finished class." "I just came out of the library, why are you back?" Saying this, Danyang thought of the rumors these days, and he said, "Well, by the way, you established the garrison, and it was you who defeated the deep-sea flagship." Sugu narrowed his eyes and said, "It's mainly due to the work of my ship's wife. Let's get to know each other. This is my wedding ship, the Tirpitz." Bizai looked at Danyang and raised her hand and said, "Hello." Then she became silent again. Hello." It took a while to react. Sugu said, "I just left the library now, I have worked hard enough." "Just average. When are you going to go out for internship?" "It's probably going to take a few months." "Have you got enough credits?" "Steady. You haven't said anything yet. Why did you think of coming over?" "Come here with Akagya." Soon after, Sugu took Bazai to wait for the next familiar person. Bazai complained from the side, "You guys have been chatting for a long time, but you have nothing to do. You insist on dragging me here. Let's go back." Sugu rolled his sleeves and said, "What do you know? My house. Okay, let's stay on this only road out of school and just meet one more person. When we get back, you can do whatever you want." "Do what?" "So, it feels really good to dry out the boat." Sugu was doing some unscrupulous things. Akagi and Chi Berlin came out of the dean's office and saw many familiar people outside. As the Academy's aircraft carrier instructor, Akagi has a more graceful temperament compared to Zeppelin's character. Zeppelin's fiery personality may not be liked by everyone, but Akagi's strong strength and classical ladylike personality make her popular among many ship girls and admirals. In fact, this never happened in the past. Someone was waiting outside for them. This situation was because Akagi usually stayed at the academy, and everyone didn't think anything of it until Akagi left. When many admirals returned to the academy with their wives and wanted to ask questions, they found that they were missing. There was no solution to the problem, so I missed it more and more. People always feel cherished when they lose something. "Instructor Akagi, why did you suddenly leave the academy?" The staff in the college knew more or less some news, but for the admirals who had returned from outside, and who didn't like parties, they didn't even know the slightest news. This time the Academy arranged for everyone's aircraft carriers, light carriers, or armored carriers to return to the Academy for training, and only then did they suddenly learn what had happened. They were all admirals who graduated from Chuangziu, and they knew each other. The other person patted the speaker on the head and said, "You're stupid, because you went back to the garrison to get married." Instructor Akagi, right. He keenly noticed the ring on Akagi's finger, remembering that it was not there when he returned to the academy last time. Akagi doesn't mind such teasing. She has always been gentle and generous. For her, getting a ring is a good thing and there is nothing to be shy about. Although I understand that in a certain sense, there is really not much love for this ring, but as long as it is a ring, it is enough. The ring given by the admiral I like is enough to make me happy. There was no one at the wedding, but when he stretched out his hand, his admiral put the ring directly on his ring finger. "Shouldn't we get engaged first?" The admiral was a little impatient. The short-haired female admiral who originally spoke said, "Jiao-han, then what kind of person is the admiral of Instructor Akagi?" Akagi showed a gentle smile and said, "A very handsome and wonderful person." Chi Bolin, who was standing next to her, curled her lips. She really didn't like Sugu at all. From the scattered news, she knew that he had already had 10 wedding ships. This is so marriageable that I really think of myself as an ancient emperor or a landlord in the old society. Of course, as long as Akagi is happy, that's fine. That guy Sugu doesn't dare to treat Akagi. He is a backup, and there is a fan group in the academy that strengthens the company. The instructor is so strong, and it's a pity that he has to go back to look after his husband and raise his children. Another shock, who do you think played a key role in the deep-sea flagship matter? Besides, if you get married, you will have a husband and a child. Do you think that Instructor Akagi is an ordinary person? The short-haired female admiral held her head and turned to glare at the admiral who was hitting her on the head. The other admiral pretended to hit her again. She complained, "Stupid, stupid, stupid, it's you who keep hitting me on the head." The two of them were childhood sweethearts. In the past, the two families planned to get married when they grew up. However, they both became admirals. Now they are far apart, and it is hard to predict the future. Speaking of which, the parents of both men and women pray to God and pray to Buddha, hoping that both of them have destroyers. If they only have destroyers, the two will be attracted to each other instead of falling in love with their own ships. Of course, this is a story for another day. The news of Instructor Akagi's marriage spread among the crowd, and some people expressed their intention to kill the admiral who deceived Instructor Akagi from everyone. Some people said that there is no wedding, no invitations, no red envelopes. Akagi in the crowd said, "He is here this time, everyone can cause trouble for him." Happiness, regret, various lifestyles, and various emotions appeared on the admirals present. Stab him to death. When hunting seals, use a stick. This is a sharp blade coated with poison. Someone whispered, "They look so happy." In fact, in addition to some old admirals, there are also new admirals in the academy. Although the main courses that Akagi and Zeppelin will teach next are not for them, they will still benefit a lot just by listening. They stood outside the crowd, not getting together with the old admirals, nor making noises, nor talking in low voices. On the other side, the light aircraft carrier Borg, with blonde hair tied into a single ponytail, was talking to the Colossus. One of them was the ship's wife of the new admiral, and the other was a faculty member of the academy. They can be so harmonious. As a colossus of faculty and staff, Gain has no airs and a cheerful personality. If those who know that she is a faculty member of the college, those who don't know think that it was some new admiral who awakened the ship girl. In short, she has now become a mascot-like existence of the college. Colossus said, "It's all up to me to call Instructor Zeppelin and Instructor Akagi back." She completely forgot who was crying, saying that someone was hurting her. How to say? Of course, I spent a lot of effort to explain the truth. First, I made it clear that the college has helped them and never treated them badly, and then said that the college is encountering difficulties now and needs their help. In short, it is reasonable to present the facts and explain the profound things in a simple way. Hey, are you listening again? Boger heard a cry of death from the crowd in front, and she said, "What happened in front? I gonna go see." The Colossus passed through the crowd and reached the front without seeing anything strange. She pulled an admiral beside her unceremoniously and asked, "There was a shouting just now. What was going on?" The admiral looked at the Colossus in front of him, which was a head shorter than him and thin. It wasn't long after Colossus woke up and entered the academy. The admiral hadn't come back for a long time. He thought it was some admiral's ship girl, so he didn't mind. Said, "Instructor Akagi is married, everyone wants to kill that damn man." I knew it a long time ago. She obviously didn't know it. After getting out of the crowd again, Colossus said to Borg, who was waiting there, "It just means that Instructor Akagi is married." Borg almost jumped up. She remembered that in the past, Her instructor Akagi had never shown any intimacy with any admiral. Besides, even if someone snatches her away, how can she get married so quickly? I also like my admiral very much and have been together for nearly a year, but if I want to get married, I always feel that there is still something missing. Do you know who that admiral is? Colossus patted her chest and touched her conscience easily. She said, "Of course I know you. Let me tell you." Colossus told Borg what he knew, but no one knew how much of it was embellished except himself. Borg felt a little regretful that the powerful instructor Akagi got married so early, but she had more important things to do than regret. She walked up to a man wearing an admiral's uniform and whispered, "Admiral." When there was no response from the front, she called out again, "Admiral." Only then did the other side react and said, "What's going on?" "Instructor Akagi is married." "I know." Borg opened her mouth to say something. She knew that her admiral liked instructor Akagi. Although outsiders didn't know it clearly, she knew that it was her admiral after all. He will probably be very sad when he hears the news about instructor Akagi's marriage, but no matter how sad he is, he cannot destroy other people's feelings. This is something that cannot be tolerated. It's okay, I've known for a long time that this day would come. I know Admiral Akagi, and you've met him too. We've had dinner with him many times before. Borg tilted his head cutely, his ponytail touching his shoulder. "Sugu, the initial ship is that guy from York City. Don't look at me like that, it's okay, we dodge." "Admiral. Let's go out to eat? Let's eat hot pot, Colossus. Let's have dinner together tonight." Colossus nodded. Just like when she was at Sugu's garrison, she didn't know what politeness meant. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai Rong Yan. Chapter 322. From the college, you can walk to a relatively bustling commercial street in 20 minutes. There are many luxury jewelry stores in the commercial street, but restaurants are the most numerous. Ignoring the signs, advertisements, and greeting ladies along the way, Lu Jianshu took his ship's wife, the Borg, and the college's faculty and staff, the Colossus, to the hot pot restaurant he frequented. He first ordered a spicy chicken, and then handed the menu to Colossus, who ordered several side dishes without hesitation. He glanced at Colossus and thought that this girl was truly innocent and without any scheming. She was indeed a newly awakened ship girl, not so particular and polite. After ordering, the food had not yet been served. Lu Jianshu said nothing and looked at the window. Colossus seemed to notice that Lu Jianshu was a little melancholy, and she said, "Instructor Shi Kung is married, but don't be sad. You are also an admiral, and you can build Shi Kung yourself when the time comes." Lu Jianshu looked at his ship girl Borg. How could the Colossus know what he was thinking? Borg shrugged, saying it was none of his business, and anyone with a discerning eye could see the expression on your face. Lu Jianshu opened his mouth to speak, but there were many flaws in Colossus' words. First of all, Akagi is not that easy to build. As a powerful and rare aircraft carrier, there are only a few in the entire world. Moreover, even if Akagi is built, it is not the Akagi he wants to see. Moreover, it is not so much that I like Akagi, but that I like the woman in the wide-sleeved kimono and holding a long bow that I saw at the beginning. It is better to say that I like that picture. In fact, when he first found out that his friend had a relationship with Akagi, he had already let it go, but he still felt a little melancholy when he saw the ring on the other person's hand. The woman in his memory was already a wife. He didn't want to explain. The more he explained this kind of thing, the more unclear it became. "You'd better drink your sour plum juice," so many words. If a cup of sour plum juice could restrain the pain, the Colossus would no longer look like the Colossus. She said, "Obviously." Before she could finish her voice, the sound of something being knocked down at the door suddenly came over. Lu Jianshu was sitting by the door of the hot pot restaurant. He could see clearly that the first person to run past was a male figure. The man was running very fast with a leather bag in his hand. Pushing away passers-by who were in the way, some people were pushed down, stood up, and cursed. Someone seemed to have noticed something was wrong and wanted to catch up, but they didn't know the specific situation. Most people hold the attitude that it doesn't matter to them. Lu Jianchu was suspicious, and then he saw a blonde woman chasing after him. Probably something was stolen, Lu Jianchu thought. Generally speaking, Sichuanxiu has good security, but no matter how good the security is, there will always be some crimes happening, but compared to ordinary cities, such crimes are fewer and more secretive. How? There's probably a thief. Lu Jianchu walked out of the hot pot restaurant and looked ahead. The thief in front ran very fast, but did not cross the road and turned into a small alley. Only in the small alley could he escape the pursuers. But there is another point that makes people worry. Most people on the street dare not do anything, but if they are in an alley, such thieves usually carry knives and weapons. The thief ran into the alley, and the woman shouldn't have chased him in. When Lu Jianchu walked out of the hot pot restaurant, his shipgirl Boj also noticed something was wrong and said, "Let's go over and take a look." "Okay, Colossus, you stay here, we'll come back soon." "I want to go too." "We all ran away as soon as we ordered the food." "Okay, you keep guard." Leaving Colossus alone in the hot pot restaurant, they chased him into an alley. All the way to the end of the alley, I didn't see the thief, but I saw the woman who was chasing him. He wanted to go up and tell the woman that since the thief was running this way, someone must be picking her up. Before he could speak, he saw the woman kicking at a house, kicking open the door, and then walked in. The woman walked into the house, and Lu Jianchu followed Borg. He saw the back of the blonde woman and many people in front of her. They had messy dyed hair, or were holding machetes or steel pipes. One of them opened his wallet with a somewhat stunned expression. Most thieves only dare to steal, but some thieves are unable to steal and turn stealing into robbery. This kind of thieves are often a gang, and it is obvious that the person in front of them is the one. Lu Jianchu wants to speak. "Girl, please step back and I will help you solve it." Before his voice could be heard, he saw the woman in front of him rushing forward. "Borg, hurry up and don't kill him." In this era, there is no argument about who is justified in making trouble or who is justified in being injured. There is a thief on one side and an admiral on the other. As long as they are not beaten to death, the trouble will never fall on one admiral. However, before Borg could step forward, Lu Jianchu saw the woman in front of him kicking a man away. Another man wielded a machete with the back of the knife, as if afraid to go too far. Facing the machete swung over, the woman turned her head, grabbed the opponent's arm with one hand, and then threw her towards the ground, smashing a table. One person held up the steel pipe and smashed it down. The steel pipe carried a fierce momentum. Having just seen the thrilling scene, Lu Jianchu was expecting the handsome woman to dodge, and then suddenly saw the steel pipe being caught by the woman in the air. Caught it, she caught it? Lu Jianchu, who was watching the battle from behind, was a little confused, and the man waving the steel pipe was also stunned. However, she was just stunned for a second. The woman grabbed the steel pipe and smashed it directly on the man's shoulder, causing the man to fall to the ground. "Do I still want to go? I think it shouldn't be necessary. There are really not many good-looking pictures left, and it would be an understatement to describe it as devastating." After subduing the gang of thieves in front of him, the woman turned her head and looked here. Lu Jianchu saw the other woman's delicate and pretty face, and thought of the other woman's strong skills. He wanted to whistle, "Handsome girl." Lu Jianchu didn't want to be like those people on the ground. He said quickly, "We just want to come and help you, but you have already solved it." As the handsome woman said no need to bother, she pushed Lu Jianchu towards the door with one hand. "Get out of the way." Lu Jianxu turned his head and saw the police. It was common sense that the police always waited until the matter was over before coming over. He was so slanderous in his heart. The police officer who came over walked up to the woman and said, "What are you doing?" "They are thieves." The men on the ground were wailing, their bones and tendons broken, and it was difficult to imagine who was the victim. The policeman looked at the blonde woman and said, "Did you beat them like this?" "It's me. Since they used knives and steel pipes, this is their punishment. We, the police, will punish you. Come with us to the police station." The woman picked up the stolen wallet, flipped through it, and said, "There are still people waiting for me, and I won't follow you back." Lu Jianxu heard their conversation clearly. Seeing that the other party was in trouble, he wanted to go up to him. Although he was still a new admiral, many of his words were still effective. He put his palm into his pocket and held the admiral's certificate in his pocket. He had already seen some conflicts between the police and the woman. "You must come back with us. He's a thief." "But you beat them up like that." I said, "Since the knife was used, you deserve it." The policeman suddenly became fierce. I said, "You must go with me." Lu Jianxu took 2 steps forward holding the admiral's certificate in his pocket, and then heard the woman's cold voice, "I won't go with you, and you can't control me." Along with the sound of metal friction, the air behind the woman was distorted. The armor covered the woman's legs below the knees, as if she was wearing Valkyrie-like metal boots. Then the mechanical arms, turrets, and battleship decks appeared behind one after another. That was the ship's outfit, and that was the ship girl. Lu Jianxu held the admiral's certificate in his pocket tightly, thinking that there was no need to take action on his own. Ordinary policemen naturally have no way to control ship girls. If you encounter trouble, you can submit a request and investigation application to the gendarmerie. The gendarmerie will investigate again. In short, only the gendarmerie can manage admirals and ship girls. As a police officer from Chuangziu, when I saw that the woman in front of me was actually a ship girl, I was already convinced. He was just a thief. He only had his hands and feet broken. It was a mercy that he was not beaten to death. He would not be stupid enough to trouble the ship girl for a few thieves. Looking at that posture, the opponent is still a battleship. The corner of the policeman's mouth twitched, but he still surrendered and said, "Let's go." Leaving the alley, Lu Jianxu and his wife Boch said, "I asked why she was not afraid at all. I asked why she caught the steel pipe with one hand, and those people kicked it onto the iron plate. Well, this is more than just it mentioned the iron plate, which should be regarded as, I can't remember the word to use, it was Richelieu. How do you know it's Richelieu? I didn't see the explosive cannon. I asked you to take more classes. Look, now you know how to use explosive cannon. You still don't understand. You want to try the cannon in front of others. The 2 of us can't beat them." They returned to the hot pot restaurant again and saw the Colossus still waiting there. "How's it going? How's it going? Tisk tisk tisk, handsome girl." Next to a flower shop, Richelieu was holding a wallet. In fact, they also felt a little melancholy. After they got off the passenger ship and walked around the streets near the Naval Academy, they encountered an accident. "Utopia, you are clamoring to get your wallet, but you don't care about it after you get it." Seeing the wallet in Richelieu's hand, Xianxiang felt a little aggrieved. He just wanted to buy something, who knew he would be snatched away. "I don't want to either." Richelieu looked at Utopia and pursed his lips. He encountered such a thing when he arrived at Chuangziu. It was really a bad experience. But she got her wallet back and everything was fine, and she didn't want to continue blaming Utopia. "Forget it, it's okay. Let's continue looking for a hotel." Joan of Arc said, "The security here is not very good." An accidental incident can be used as a standard to evaluate the poor public security of a place. 2. After such an encounter, they were not in the mood to continue shopping, so they randomly found a hotel that looked good on the roadside. They only booked one room, which was the best room in the hotel. The room was large and had several beds, which was more than enough to sleep 5 people. Are you going shopping tomorrow? What's fun here? I heard there is an amusement park. There are cat cafes and maid cafes, let's go check them out. Let's go see the night view tonight. I heard that everywhere is brightly lit even in the middle of the night. Dreaming of lying on the bed, she took a corner of the quilt and rolled it around on the bed a few times, and suddenly turned into a caterpillar. I don't want to go. The journey was so tiring that I didn't even want to get up, and I encountered that bad thing again, so I didn't have the slightest mood to dream about it. It's really unpleasant to travel to such a far-away place. Feeling a little tired from daydreams, Vauquelin and Surcouf were still full of expectations. I heard that there is a Daiwang building here. It's so tall. I want to take a look. I heard there are many bards. Surcouf, you think it's a fairy tale. In reality, there are no minstrels. At most, there are people performing street magic or playing guitar. Richelieu did not discuss it with the little girl. She said, Joan of Arc, you take them out for a walk tomorrow, and I will go to Chuangziu alone to ask about the situation. Vauquelin heard the voice and asked, is there something wrong with Sister Richelieu? Yes. I also want to go out with a few people. In the dormitory of Sichuan show faculty and staff, warm lights shine in the room. Beizai lay on the mat on the ground, her chest pressed on the pillow. She held a book and said, Admiral, give me a pat on the back. Sugu heard the voice and said, you are the Admiral or I am the Admiral. It should be you who gives me a back slap. I am a ship girl, and I am still your wedding ship. Of course you have to give me a slap on the back. You don't care about your own ship girl at all. Beizai can always take everything for granted. To be honest, if he wasn't cute, who would like him? However, she was cute, very cute, so Sugu slapped Beizai on the back and said, do you want me to feed you? Beizai said, okay, I just don't have time, help me peel an apple. Sugu stopped tapping Beizai's back and said, what a beautiful idea. Speaking of which, I originally wanted to take Xiaozai out. If you come out shamelessly, Xiaozai won't come out. You can't attack little girls. Here, this one is for you, Lolakan. Sugu took the book that Beizai brought over. It seemed like a book describing Lolita. He turned to the first page, which read that the heroine lived 10,000 years, but in terms of appearance and dialogue, she looked like a little loli. This was a forced 10,000 years. Children's books are not allowed to be published, but these publishers always have a way. It's really bad. Sugu didn't have any lustful thoughts about the little Lolita. He was completely doting on both Xiaozai and Lafite. Sugu raised his hand, knocked the notebook on Beizai's head, and said, you are the only pervert who likes this thing. Please remind me that you are not allowed to draw little girls' notebooks. I can't draw. I'll burn this book. I'm not allowed to take it back to the town hall. Just forget about your usual mess. Don't torture the little girl. Beizai turned around and glared at Sugu, who said, what else do you want? Beizai said dully, not very good. Sheik Hung knelt down next to him and heard the conversation between the two people. She said, I met your classmate today. Remember, his name is Lu Jianzhu. I said no wonder I couldn't find him. He ran to your side. He also looked a little melancholy. Sugu thought of Lu Jianzhu and remembered that he liked Sheik Hung. He said, I think I felt sad when I saw the ring on your hand. Akagi opened his hands under the light, and the diamonds reflected light in the light, then should I take it off? Don't. Akagi laughed. Sheik Hung laughed beside him, and Sugu said, let's go out for supper tonight. Beizai replied decisively, I won't go. Must go. After eating supper, he went to bed, and the next day, Akage was about to start formal classes. Sugu followed him to attend the class. Although Beizai was not happy, he was still dragged along. Then I heard her complaining all the way, "It would be better to stay in the guardhouse, my sister is not that bothered." Sugu originally lived in the academy and followed Akage directly to the archery club inside the academy. At the entrance of the college, the admirals showed their admiral cards before they could enter the college. A blonde woman who was called Handsome Girl was stopped by the security guard. She asked doubtfully, "Aren't you allowed in?" "Not now. The academy is only open to the public on weekends and holidays. Only admirals, ship girls, or staff can enter now. I am the ship's wife, Richelieu. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 323. The college is not open on weekends. I'm a ship girl. Although she is beautiful, it is still not enough to make people trust her just by virtue of her beauty. Richelieu abides by the rules and doesn't like to make people feel embarrassed. She raised one hand, and the armor, turret, in short, the ship attire appeared behind her, terrifying and oppressive. As the ship uniform appeared, everyone around was almost startled. The ship girl who was following her admiral quickly protected the admiral. This was a subconscious action. There is no need to show such horrific things in public places. A little afraid of the gun going off, the security guard showed a dumb smile and then stepped aside to let Richelieu enter the college. This was the first time Richelieu entered the Naval Academy in Chuangziu. She looked up at the building directly in front of her, but her sight was blocked by a huge anchor. She looked around again and saw a tall tree. There was a corridor behind the tree, and the corridor was covered with posters. There is a fork in the road, and on the fork in the road there is a large map showing the layout of the entire college. Apart from this, there are only a few passers-by here and there, and the entire academy is quite deserted. Richelieu walked to the big map and planned to find the faculty building. Although she could ask passers-by or the security guard at the door, she didn't like to trouble people unless necessary. Just looking at the map, she felt a little headache. The college was too big. First go to the academy to inquire about the situation, and then go to the garrison. Whether it is your admiral or not, it will be clear at a glance. There are rough plans, but when it comes to detailed plans, Richelieu has never been the kind of person who makes plans before taking action. Of course, it's just a simple matter of finding someone. In fact, there is no need to make so many preparations. Thinking back to the relevant rumors I heard at the party, I decided to take my family to Chuangziu without thinking too much. It's one thing to feel that there is finally a reliable rumor, but on the other hand, I don't regard it as my home. After all, a place without an admiral is not home. Feng Huo decided to come over and ask Joan of Arc to take the three little girls out to play in the morning, and then ran to the academy alone. Richelieu stood in front of the map, silently writing down the route in his mind, when he suddenly heard a voice. Looking for someone. She turned her head and saw a person standing next to her. It was the admiral she had just met at the door. Richelieu nodded. "Why don't you tell me? I probably know him, otherwise the whole academy will run around and I don't know how long it will take. Most people who come to the academy for the first time tend to get lost easily." Richelieu wanted to explain, but the admiral said bluntly, "Just tell me who you are. I know most of the people in the academy." "A new admiral named Sugu, do you have any impressions?" Although he is not Sugu's classmate, I have heard this name many times. Apart from rumors, I heard it recently when I was talking to instructor Akage yesterday. "What do you want from him?" "I want to meet him." "Do you recognize him?" Just tell me his appearance. Richelieu naturally would not say that he might be his admiral. He was a freshman last year and I've been graduating for a number of years. Must be a very important person. This voice came from the opponent's ship's wife. She was more perceptive than the human admiral. She clearly noticed the anxious look on your face, Rish, and she spoke more. No reservations. Richelieu smiled non-committally. If you're looking for him, he's in the academy. Shouldn't he be at the governor's mansion? Richelieu just wanted to come over and confirm before running to the governor's mansion. His wedding ship is the aircraft carrier instructor Akagi here. Akagi teaches here, and he followed here. Akagi. Wedding ship? To be honest, Richelieu was a little stunned. His admiral did not have a wedding number. And based on his character, a ship girl who is not strong enough will never get married. Now that I'm married to Akagi, I feel a little panicked for no reason at this time. The more I hope, the more I'm afraid of being disappointed. So where is he? I don't know where he is. Anyway, Akagi is teaching in the square outside the Kyoto Club today. Richelieu then followed the admirals who entered the college one after another to the square. At this time, there were already many people in the square. Aircraft carriers, light carriers, armored carriers, and their admirals. These people will definitely come. There are also many new admirals coming to the academy. After all, Instructor Akagi has been away for such a long time. Now that he is back, he still wants to take a look. In fact, when Akagi teaches aircraft carriers, he not only teaches how to operate carrier-based aircraft. In addition to operating carrier-based aircraft, there is also a lot of experience in how to defend against air defense, what tactics general deep-sea ship girls are good at, and what kind of carrier-based aircraft those deep-sea ship girls have. These are difficult to learn in textbooks. Of course, there are a small number of admirals who have the most innocent thoughts and simply come to see beautiful women. Admirals are also lustful men and women. The place where the course is taught is the large square outside the Kyoto Club. There is a lake next to it, the sea in the distance, and the sky is wide without any obstacles. At this time, the teaching has not officially started. The admiral and the ship girl are just gathering here in twos and threes. After all, it is always just students waiting for teachers, and there is no reason for teachers to wait for students. Richelieu looked around the square, but Akagi didn't see it, and she couldn't find the person she wanted to see in her field of vision, so she began to wait. On a bench at one foot of the square, the admiral sat resting. One man lightly kicked another man's foot. "Isn't your ship girl a destroyer? Daniang, why did you come here?" "My ship girl is a destroyer, so she didn't come over. I'm the only one here today." "Appreciate beauty." Daniang smiled, "Appreciate the beauty. Move aside, you occupy a whole chair by yourself." Lu Jianshu sat down next to Daniang. Lu Jianshu sat down and asked his ship's wife Boj to sit down too. Daniang said, "I heard that instructor Shi Kung is married now." It was sad again. Lu Jianshu couldn't help but lean on the bench and said in a weak voice, "Married? I heard that instructor Akagi wears a ring on her finger and is getting married to her admiral, Sugu. We know that Sugu. I met him on a passenger ship before. He spent a day fishing out the passenger ship San Juan. Then I saw him before the Academy's new admiral interview, and he became the admiral smoothly. Later on I met him again in the aircraft carrier branch. It was not surprising that his initial ship was the Yorktown. The only strange thing was that at the end of the course, instructor Akagi invited him to the archery department. At that time, I found that there was something wrong with their relationship. Sure enough, after he left, instructor Akagi also he is gone. He can do internship so quickly because of the relationship with the instructor Akagi. He used to bring a little girl Tirpitz with him, but now. He just met Sugu yesterday, and Daniang clearly remembered that the ship girl Tirpitz introduced by him was a big beauty, so why was she a little girl? He raised a question and said, "She's not a little girl anymore. How can that fiery figure like Tirpitz be a little girl?" Danyang detailed his experience of meeting yesterday. "No, I remember his Tirpitz was a little girl named Xiaozai. Grown up. I don't know, so what horrible things did he do to that little Tirpitz to make him grow up so quickly? Is it he? Only in this way can a little girl realize that she should grow up. Appearance comes from the heart, and ship girls fully implement this. They feel that as they grow up, their appearance will become bigger. They feel that they will never grow up if they are still little girls. Just like Veneto, she gave up on herself. She knew that she would never grow up, so she would always have a little girl's figure and flat chest. When the two of them laughed like this, they actually knew that Sugu couldn't be that perverted and it was just a joke. Speaking of that rumor, his garrison repelled the deep-sea flagship. I heard that he had many ship girls, and he said those were his former ship girls. Even if he had a garrison before, but so many ships, Mom, can he still be in business for 100 years? Even if he has been in business for 100 years and owns so many rare ships, they are still European seals. If it's a European seal from head to tail, 5 or 10 years is actually about the same. I heard about a very European guy who built a big phoenix, but now his leg has been broken. Daifeng is indeed powerful enough. By the way, I met a handsome girl yesterday. Danyang was slightly stunned. Just now we were talking about ship girls, but now you are saying something weird. Lu Jianxia recalled what happened to him while eating hot pot yesterday. He originally thought that the blonde woman would encounter difficulties and wanted to help at first. Then seeing that she defeated the enemy neatly, he thought she was a fighting master. Finally, he found out that the opponent was a ship. Mother. Fortunately, nothing happened, otherwise the person who would be embarrassed would be himself. Falling in love with someone else? What will your Borg do if you do this? The ship girl, that's the ship girl, the battleship Richelieu, the real handsome girl. For the ship girl, I generally don't like to use the word handsome. I mostly use the word good-looking to describe it. Most of the ship girls have better personalities and better personalities. It seems a little soft again. Even if the two sides argue, the person who backs down first is often the ship girl. Because of the character of the ship girl, it is often necessary for the admiral to step in and teach those stubborn guys. Richelieu, she directly knocked all the thieves who stole her wallet to the ground, basically beating them until their bones and muscles were broken. Later, the police came over, even if they were thieves, and beat the thieves to pieces, and then the policeman wanted to Richelieu was taken away for investigation. Most ship girls recognized it, but Richelieu insisted on her opinion and did not back down at all. She insisted on her justice from beginning to end. The one with the machete was beaten the worst, and the one with the steel rod was beaten the worst. Second, as expected, the Chevalier Richelieu. When Danyang heard Lu Jianxia's words, he felt a little longing, and the handsome scene under the sunset seemed to appear in his eyes. People always subconsciously beautify their imaginations, and suddenly a majestic Richelieu appeared in their eyes. I don't know whose ship girl it is. She looks very tired. She must have come here for a trip. I saw a group of them, but they didn't seem to have an admiral. Then it seems it's my turn to take action. Cut. As they said that, they saw the blonde figure walking past. Lu Jianxia quickly pushed Danyang and said, "Look, it's that one is the Richelieu I met. How did she get here, coming? Whose ship girl? She looked like she was looking for someone." Time passed, and Sugu followed Akage to the familiar square at the aircraft carrier branch. He liked the wall covered with roses the most. In the lake next to the square, I used to go swimming, and the people I went with carried spear guns. Later, I was caught and got a lesson. I saw Akage here for the first time. Akage was standing on the steps wearing a wide-sleeved kimono with cherry blossoms embroidered on the sleeves. The sea breeze blew over, and the wide-sleeved sleeves and hair were swaying in the wind. She raised her hand to tuck her hair behind her ears. Every time he thought of that scene, Sugu felt a thrilling beauty. Lexington is an urban beauty, while Akage is a classic beauty. Akage is making preparations, such as changing into Kyoto uniforms and protective gear. Sugu took Bazai to the square first. Bazai was completely brought out by force, and she kept holding her notebook. Although the lecture has not started yet, he is reading comics unscrupulously. People passing by look at Bazai with some doubts. Of course, they have no idea that this comic is not suitable for children. Akage and the others haven't come here yet. Admiral, do you want to read it? I brought several copies here. Yes, Sugu took a book. He was a serious person. Soon after, as Akage and Chi Berlin came out, Bazai still didn't put away the notebook, which made the people around him even more surprised. When faced with admirals and ship girls who didn't pay attention to class, Zeppelin would drive away those who didn't pay attention to class. Once she got into trouble, she would be merciless. However, the two people in front of them, and Zeppelin, who was standing next to them to maintain order, showed no signs of expression at all, looking like they were turning a blind eye. Of course they don't know that Zeppelin can't do anything about Bazai. I didn't think so in the past. When I saw Bazai repelling the deep-sea flagship, I suddenly discovered that the usually weak girl was no less powerful than Bismarck. Akage set up a bow and shot an arrow on the square. The arrow pierced the sky and turned into a carrier-based aircraft. Sugu actually had little interest in such teaching. He already knew carrier-based aircraft very well. After all, so many people in the garrison had taught him. Just talk about Saratoga. My sister-in-law is cold to others and cold to York City, but she is super enthusiastic about this place. I came here just because my wedding ship was teaching, and it would be too chilling to not be there by myself. Akage usually stays quietly in the town hall and doesn't harass you like a destroyer. Of course, Sugu welcomes such harassment. Akage helps you and never takes credit. Because of this, I was given the ring. Of course, I couldn't act indifferently after giving the ring. The first moment the class started, Richelieu saw Akage standing there from a distance, with her satin-like black hair swinging in the air, the long skirt of her Kyoto uniform swinging in the wind, and her archery posture like a Valkyrie. Her eyes fell on Akage's face. That look was unusually familiar. Although she was not very familiar with the other party, as a ship girl who guarded the mansion, she still recognized that she was once her companion and sister. That was the Akage she knew, but everyone was listening in class, so she had no intention of rushing forward, biting her lip and looking for him in the crowd. Sugu in the crowd said, "It's begun. I'm a battleship, and Akage's classes are of no use to me. It's good to learn how to defend against air defense. Know yourself and the enemy, air defense. I think of the 37 handheld machine." Bazai didn't even raise his head and said, "I'll tell my sister. Then I'll also tell your sister that I won't let you into my room yet. Then I won't let you touch my thigh." This will be a lose-lose scenario, but although Bazai's thigh is great, victory is the most important. Sugu wanted to fight back, but suddenly noticed someone standing in front of him, blocking the sunlight. Sugu raised his head and saw a blonde woman, obviously a ship girl, because she looked beautiful. She seemed to be biting her lip and looking a little excited. "How?" He pursed his lips and his expression changed. He raised his hand and put it down again. Her expression was excited and cold. She opened and closed her mouth, and finally the blonde woman said, "Admiral, Richelieu, report to you." At the same time, Bazai turned his head when he heard the voice and said without any surprise, "Richelieu." "Well, Richelieu." Sugu looked at the blonde beauty in front of him. He reacted instantly and said, "Welcome back." Someone in the distance kept noticing Richelieu. He saw Richelieu looking for people around him, saw Richelieu saluting a person, then saw Richelieu sitting down next to that person, and finally saw that person. Man's face. Sugu, he is a dog. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 324. Carrier-based aircraft hovered in the sky, performing a variety of difficult maneuvers. The various control skills of carrier-based aircraft will help a ship girl to have better air control and bombing when fighting against deep-sea ship girls. After all, it must be admitted that ship girls are more used in combat. The word weapon is a bit cruel, that is, soldiers. The various ship girls in the square raised their heads, gesturing in their hands which skills they could use. However, any movement cannot be learned at a glance. I wrote it down in my mind, organized the language, and thought about waiting to find instructor Akage to ask how to deal with those difficulties. After all, this is reality. There is no saying that you can only gain experience by defeating the enemy or doing exercises. In addition to fighting, listening carefully to lectures and learning from the experiences of seniors is conducive to the rapid growth of a ship girl. Although there is no data, it is difficult to determine whether a ship girl is powerful or not, but no matter what, Akage is well deserved as an instructor. She has been teaching in the academy for such a long time, so of course everyone can tell whether she is qualified or not. Moreover, she practiced with the long-famous Zeppelin instructor and won easily, although that victory was Zeppelin's nightmare. Akage was teaching. She needed to be distracted by controlling each carrier-based aircraft and had no time to pay attention to anything else. She didn't pay attention to the scene that happened in the corner of the square. Those admirals who had been out for a long time and were suddenly called over for training had run the townhouse for a long time. They joked when they should be joking and were serious when they should be serious. Naturally, they didn't pay much attention to what was happening in the square. Zeppelin came with Akage, and she was temporarily responsible for maintaining order. In fact, since her visit to the town hall, she was no longer interested in demonstrating the control skills of the carrier-based aircraft. In the past, Akage would restrain himself and give Zeppelin some face, but Lexington, especially Saratoga, was ruthless in what he said and did. Anyway, now Zeppelin is more interested in doing other things. She saw the situation on Sugu's side. A strange blonde woman was sitting next to them. Although she was a little confused, she was not ready to go and take a look. Although they had been together for so long, there were too many weird things about Sugu. There were only two people in the corner of the square who kept looking over there. One of them said, "That European seal." Another whispered, "No, it should be called a European dog." On the other side, Richelieu was beautiful, second to none in appearance and figure. If you were outside, you would probably attract a lot of attention, but here, everyone is just a ship girl, each with their own beauty. For everyone present, whether you are beautiful or not depends more on each person's aesthetics, whether you like a proud lady or a cute Lolita. Richelieu walked through the crowd at first without unfurling her ship's uniform. No one knew she was a battleship. After all, only a few people knew her. With her personality, she couldn't do anything like hug the admiral. There was no explosive point. To be honest, there was really no way to attract attention. "Admiral, Richelieu reports to you." When Sugu saw Richelieu standing in front of him and saluting, he felt a little incredible at first. He really didn't expect to meet Richelieu here. "Welcome back." When Sugu said these words, although he was still unfamiliar with the Richelieu in front of him, he would never show the strangeness like before. Although a ship girl can probably tell that she is guilty if she is careful, a ship girl will not doubt her admiral easily. Sugu said, "Stop standing, sit down." Richelieu was not polite. She sat next to Sugu, but she didn't stick to Sugu like Bazai. There is a distance of one person's width between the two. Even the most discerning person would guess that the two are more than friends but not lovers. In fact, when most people look at it, they probably only think of it as a friendship. In the wide square, it was not like sitting in a classroom like a class. Some people in the huge square approached the carrier-based aircraft. Some people approached Akagi to listen to the explanation at close range. Some people took notes in a hurry. Even Zeppelins, he was also surrounded by people. Sugu in the crowd even looked at Sietao, who had had a conflict before. However, after such a long time passed, the minor conflict disappeared. It's just a pity that he didn't come out wearing the ring. It would be a good experience if he stood with Akagi wearing the ring and appeared in front of him again. It would be best if no one noticed here. Sugu didn't like to be affected too much. Richelieu sat next to Sugu. She was not the kind of person who talked much and gossiped. At this time, there was neither an excited expression nor a steady flow of acquaintance or nostalgia to describe. Bizai still looked the same, and even if Richelieu didn't come back for a long time, she still couldn't bear to say a few more words. The carrier-based aircraft controlled by Akagi in the distance seemed to have performed a super difficult maneuver, and there was a burst of cheers and exclamation from the surroundings. Amidst all the cheers and exclamations, the corner of the square seemed somewhat peaceful. Richelieu sat upright and said, "I heard your rumors that you repelled the deep-sea flagship. I heard your name, Bismarck, Lexington, and Saratoga, so I suspected it was you." Sugu said, "I thought you might get some rumors and come back, but I didn't expect to meet you here. Rather than saying that we are back, it is better to say that the Admiral is back." Every time he mentioned this, Sugu didn't have any temper. After all, it was just a game in the first place, so he gave up the game as soon as he gave up. He really had nothing to be ashamed of. But on the other hand, now that the game has become a reality, girls come to his door one after another with grievances, and he can't say that it has nothing to do with him, which often makes people embarrassed. Sugu briefly told his experience. Richelieu talked about his own affairs. After a while, Sugu said, "I have been to your place before to find the Prince of Wales. Her garrison seems to have left your place. It's not far away." Richelieu said, "It's quite far. It takes about a day to go back and forth." "Yeah, well, have you ever heard of the Prince of Wales before?" "No, I have heard rumors about Bismarck, the Black Ghost Bismarck." "How did you find this place?" "You didn't go to the town hall. The rumors reached us, and no one knew where your garrison was, so we decided to come to the academy to ask about the situation. What a coincidence, Akagi happened to be here to teach, and we just came to Chuangziu, who is with you. Joan of Arc, Utopia, Vauquelin, and Surcouf, I just arrived yesterday and encountered something. Utopia took her wallet and wanted to buy something, and then it was suddenly snatched away. She wanted to chase it. The little girl was not serious, I was worried that she would hurt someone, so I chased after her. There was a group of those people, some with knives, some with steel pipes, I broke their hands and feet, and met the police again." Richelieu had his own justice, so he didn't care what others said, but he was still a little worried about whether his admiral would support him. "You deserve it, you owe it, what about thinking about them now? I haven't told them about you yet, and I'm afraid it will be a mirror image again. We only told them that we are here for a trip, and today Joan of Arc is going to take them shopping in Sichuan. We have been on the passenger ship for many days, everyone is tired. When I got up, they were not up yet, but at this time, they are probably up." Sugu stood up and said, "Let's go over. Since they will get up very late, maybe they haven't gotten up yet after this time. Originally, he came here just to accompany Akagi, but now that Richelieu is back, he still wants to go there. Akagi can accompany you whenever I have time to think about it. Things here are obviously more important." Richelieu looked around and knew that there was a class here. She said, "Where is this place?" It's okay, it's okay. Look, let's read some comics here. It's okay. Sugu wanted to explain. He spread out the book in his hand, which meant that I was already reading comic books. There must be nothing important. It's just that it was originally a book that Bazai read, and the pictures in the book are really unsightly. Richelieu took a look, twitched the corners of his mouth, and showed disgust in his eyes. With a character like an Orthodox knight, she couldn't bear such a scene, but the person in front of her was the admiral. Sugu immediately noticed Richelieu's eyes. He remembered what kind of book he was holding and quickly threw the book to Bazai. There was another disgusting look from Bazai, but Sugu never cared about her opinions. Laughed twice. Now that he was ready to leave, Richelieu said, "Let's talk to Akage." "Need not." Sugu looked towards Akage, feeling so blessed that Akage turned his head and looked over. Sugu made a gesture and nodded. An unexpected fit, or a tacit understanding. When Richelieu saw this scene, she whispered, "I heard that Akage is now a wedding ship." Bazai said from the side, "And Helena too." Sugu looked at Bazai and asked if he could stop saying a word. He needed to take care of it. Richelieu showed a serious look. Thinking of the book she just saw and the admiral as a man, she said, "Admiral, be temperate." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 325. Get up, fantasy. Get up pushed. Or I'll pinch your nose. Even so, Vauqueland was not in such a good mood, so she simply pushed Nguyen Xiang and rolled around on the bed twice. After 2 rounds of rolling like this, the white-haired girl finally woke up, and Vauqueland jumped away with a smile. After waking up in a daze, the white-haired girl sat up from the bed. The sheet slipped from her body, and she held the sheets in front of her chest with one hand. She rubbed her eyes and her long hair looked a little messy. It was obvious that she was quite restless when she slept last night. The passenger ship took half or more of a month, and I was trapped in the small cabin. Although it was bearable, sleeping on the passenger ship was also uncomfortable as it was bumping and bumping on the sea. It took a lot of effort to arrive in Sichuangziu. The port is so prosperous, the streets are so prosperous, there are many shops and people on the roadside. This is the impression they have. After having dinner on the roadside, I was surprised by the colorful neon lights on the roadside. I was surprised that electric lights were also installed in the tree canopy on the roadside. The red lights and green lights made the whole city beautiful. Vauquelin and Surcouf wanted to see the night view, but after finding the hotel, they just lay down on the bed and didn't want to move. You can see the night view any day. Since we are here for a trip, she doesn't want to run here and there. This is the best room in the hotel. The price is also relatively expensive. There are 2 rooms. It looks like an ordinary residential house, but the decoration is more high-end. They slept in a smaller room. Although the bed was smaller, it was no problem for 3 little girls. Last night, I wanted to sleep separately at first, but I didn't want to sleep alone on one side, so in the end the 3 of us slept on one side. I slept until dawn, and now I woke up with strength in my body again. Kong Xiang looked at Sukufu, who was sitting by the bed in a pink skirt. Sukufu looked younger than her, but in terms of figure, he was better than many adults, but she didn't pay too much attention to these things. It doesn't matter. In the field of vision, I saw another little girl combing her hair. That was Wok Erland. I looked over and over, and my mind went blank. I stayed like this for a few minutes before I woke up. Kong Xiang stood up on the bed and the sheet slipped from her body. She called out, "Vauquelin." "How? What time is it?" "Have no idea." There was no clock in the room, and I didn't know what time it was when I got up. All in all, the room had become very bright. "Vauquelin, you talked in your sleep last night and grinded your teeth. I saw you put your hand on Sukuf's chest, you pervert." Sukuf's bust is like a bun. Sukuf showed a shy expression. I talked a lot without nutrition and imagined sitting on the bed ready to get dressed. She first picked up the white stockings from the ground, rolled them up, put her toes inside the socks, and then pulled the socks up to her thighs. Pull hard again and let go. Due to the elasticity, the socks make a pop sound. After putting on her socks, she moved her toes. Her feet were the best. The first thing you do when you get up every morning is put on your socks and then get dressed. Although her hair was still messy, she changed into a white skirt and black shoes and she immediately transformed into a cute little princess. The three of them came out of their rooms. Joan of Arc had already bought breakfast for them. There was no milk bread, only soy milk and fried dough sticks. Of course, when you do as the locals do, you have to eat some special food, but these are not considered local specialties at all. Joan of Arc knocked on the table and said, "Fantasy, comb your hair and wash your face." Didn't bring a towel. There are them in the hotel. You can also use Vauquelin's towels. Don't use mine, use Sukuf's. Xiang walked into the bathroom and came out, her face was just a little wet. Comb your hair. No comb. I hit someone. Joan of Arc would not gently help them comb their long hair, so she could only do it herself. Xiang turned his back and walked into the room, making faces and sticking out his tongue as he walked. Bam, old witch. When he came out of the room, everyone had already started eating. Kong Xiang held the fried dough sticks in his hands, took a big bite, and said, "Where are we going today? Let's go to the playground. I want to go to the park. The parks all look the same. You haven't been to them before." Kong Xiang said, "I want to see a cheetah when I go to the zoo. I don't know if the cheetah can outrun me. The cheetah is in a cage and won't run with you. You go run a marathon. I heard that it only takes a few laps along the road outside. It's just right." There are no serious city travel guides in this era, and Sichuanxiu is an unfamiliar city to everyone. But when I had dinner yesterday, I asked the restaurant owner. The cute little girl asks questions, and for anyone, of course, she knows everything she knows. As a boss who has lived in Sichuanxiu for many years, I have watched Sichuanxiu build up little by little. Parks, amusement parks, large commercial buildings, farms, zoos, and even urban rumors are all in my possession. You can ride horses in the countryside. It costs per minute. It's not expensive if you just want to experience it. If you have money, you can go to Smile Building and Nanchinj department store, otherwise you can go to the underground shopping mall. When Chuangziu was building the overpass, the piles couldn't be driven in. Later, an admiral came to see it and said that there was resentment among Africans. So he brought many of his classmates, and each of them was accompanied by a destroyer. That means, you are not miserable enough at all, look at us here. Later, the stakes were driven down all at once. There was no basis for the rumor at all, but the little girl was stunned. The road is being built outside the city. This continued until several voices shouting "boss" appeared, and the boss realized that he still had to do business, and there were many customers around him who needed to be taken care of. The boss said less, but really gave a good introduction to the whole city. The little girl couldn't argue about where to go next, and when she realized that one person was missing, she asked, "Where is Sister Richelieu?" "She's already out. She said she was taking us on a trip, but she went out by herself." "You are so unreliable. If Richelieu was here, she would certainly not dare to say such a thing. It's just that he ran away first despite bringing everyone here from such a distance. Actually, it's not the fault of Kong's resentment. She has important things." It was indeed an important matter. Joan of Arc thought about what Richelieu might encounter at the academy, and wondered how long Richelieu would be there. "If everything goes well, I'll probably be back soon, but if not, it's hard to say." It was originally agreed that no matter what news he got at the college, Richelieu would sail to the garrison alone to have a look, and he would take the little girl around Chuangziu in one day. If it's everyone's admiral, then everything is fine. If not, I haven't thought about what to do yet. But at least I will really travel, although I will lose several days. The little girl in front of me was chattering non-stop. Joan of Arc made a decision and said, "Let's go to Smile Building, and then go to the underground shopping mall to buy clothes." No, Utopia objected with all his strength. "I have made a decision." Of course Joan of Arc had her own thoughts. How could she possibly accommodate the little girl all the way? The Smile Building has beautiful clothes, and the underground mall has a lot of cosmetics. You can also get hairdressing, manicure, and eyebrow trimming. Eyebrow trimming is actually not necessary, because being a ship girl is already pretty enough. If possible, who wants to be a French peasant woman? Sugu took Richelieu with him, and Baizai followed feebly at the rear, barely keeping up. "You live here. This is Guanqian Street, and walking to the side is Xiaodong Alley, which is very nice. There is a flea market in Xiaodong Alley. You can buy everything in the flea market, and there are also many things that have been discarded by other people. Anyway, it's like picking up a leak. I've been to Saratoga many times, bought a lot of things, and when I came out of there was a really nice milk tea shop. I have to say that York City is a fighting maniac, and although Lexington is a good wife and mother, it always feels like something is missing. The person who often accompanied me back then was my sister-in-law Saratoga. If you are considering getting married, Lexington's personality is the best, but as a girlfriend, your sister-in-law's personality is the best. There is a movie theater next to Xiaodong Alley. I just went to see it with Bazai yesterday. The movies are good, but the number is too small. It is a movie theater during the day, and there will be 3 shows in the middle of the night. Well, it's okay. Walk 10 minutes ahead and you can find the old movie theater. The maid cafe where Fletcher works, I recognize the clerk there. We can get a discount if we go there. Since you are here, I have told the governor that you are not in a hurry to go back. If you come here for a trip, I will take you on a trip." Not long after, Sugu raised his head and said, "Are you staying in this hotel?" The fact is that it took a lot of time for the last few people to leave the college and go to the street outside to find the hotel where Richelieu was staying. It was already close to noon. Sugu ignored the strange look from the hotel receptionist who followed him all the way and thought to himself, "Hey, do you think I brought 2 girls to check out a room? I'm a serious person." He stepped on the stairs and ran all the way up to the 3rd floor and reached the end of the corridor. Knocking on the door, there was no response. He already knew that there must be no one inside. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 326. Sugu followed Richelieu back to the hotel where they stayed, but no one was found in the room. If you can't find it, you can't find it. Don't worry too much. You can just wait until night anyway. It's not a big deal. In Chuangziu City, as ship girls, they are invincible to ordinary people and will not encounter danger. The only ones who can cause harm to them are the deep-sea ship girls, but as the seat of the Naval Academy and a shipping transfer station, Chuangziu's safety is not guaranteed. How can it develop into such a big city? Chuangziu has its own escort team. There is no need to worry about being hurt or deceived. The only thing you need to worry about is not to be attracted by the dazzling array of products and find yourself nowhere to be found. Although Chuangziu was nothing compared to the real metropolis in Sugu's memory, it was limited by the times after all. But because of Kanyang, the citizens of Chuangziu are open-minded. Maid cafes that generally don't appear in other cities can be found in Chuangziu. Books that are generally not sold in other cities are also available here, and there are even events like Comic-Con. This is a city where ideas are not bound by conservatism, and it has its own unique appeal. Sit in the room for a while. I wonder where they went? A park, an amusement park or a commercial building. If we get out, there's nothing we can do. There was no one in the room, so Richelieu suggested going back to the academy. After all, there were classes there. But for Sugu, he had already come out and there was nothing going on over there, so he didn't want to run there again. But there is really no way to guess where they will go. I sat in the room for a while, nothing happened. There was no TV here. Baizai took his own notebook and read it with gusto. Sugu really couldn't agree to give me a copy, he didn't have the shame. Sugu noticed the wide-brimmed hat placed on the table in the room and asked, "Whose is it?" "It's very beautiful." "Mine." Sugu listened to Richelieu's nonchalant voice and simply said, "Let's go shopping, maybe we can meet them." For Sugu, he had no idea about Richelieu's character and thought he might have a knight-like character. I noticed the hat placed next to the table and suddenly thought, France, you must like romance. After all, there are many girls who are cold on the outside and hot on the inside. No woman would refuse shopping, except Baizai. Richelieu was a little surprised and said, "But then as compensation for my leaving until now, whatever Richelieu wants, leave everything to me." "What about me? You didn't compensate me before." "I want to buy a house." You don't have the argument compared to Richelieu, he didn't have much money when he first met Baizai. At that time, there was no way to easily assume the identity of Admiral. After such a long time, I am no longer so coy now. Sugu spread his hands and said, "Otherwise we wouldn't have anything to do here." Richelieu said, "That's all right." Sugu slapped Baizai's back hard and said, "Let's go, feel a little self-conscious, okay?" The Admiral and Baizai have a very good relationship. Sugu looked at Baizai and said, "It's okay." Soon after, everyone walked to the city center together. Sugu was quite familiar with Chuangziu, even though he didn't really have any money when he first came here. At that time, when I went shopping with everyone, I could only look at things and had no money to buy them. If you don't have money, you don't have money. There is still a lot of shopping, but Saratoga drags you out. If we talk about her relationship with Lexington, it is because of her perfect wife-like personality. So with Saratoga, it was really just shopping, talking, and getting along to develop a relationship. Although I was a little busy at that time, I actually didn't have much time to go shopping. Want to buy jewelry? Need not. What about the clothes? Let's go in and take a look. No. You're making things difficult for me. The ideal was beautiful, but Richelieu couldn't let go. In the end, he just walked around without buying anything. Then let's eat. At noon, I sat in a small shop on the roadside. The garrison is running very well, and my salary is high. There are occasional expedition missions, and the entire garrison is thriving. We defeated the deep-sea flagship and obtained a large amount of resources. I am not interested in construction, and there is no need to worry about resources. There are still Zeppelins in Lexington, Saratoga, Akagia, and Yorktown. You probably don't know Yorktown and Zeppelin. You should have seen Zeppelin in the morning, and the rest is Yorktown. She has a good character. Bismarck, North House, Prince of Wales, counterattack, and you. Counting the battleships of the garrison, no matter from every aspect, our garrison is invincible. Well, Richelieu, are you listening? Richelieu looked into the distance, and after hearing Sugu's voice for a long time, he reacted and said, "I seem to have seen a fantasy." Fantasy? Sugu followed Richelieu's gaze and wondered, could it be such a coincidence? Sichuan is so old that such a situation can happen. At first, I said it might happen, but it was just a joke. But after careful calculation, I knew that they were going shopping. This is the city center, with large shopping malls, a central square and a pedestrian street. Even if they met, it would be a coincidence, but it is not a coincidence. Are you sure this is fantasy? It's just a fantasy. I'll go over and take a look. The white-haired girl was squatting in front of a shop. Except for her hair, Suguhan couldn't recognize it as a fantasy. Joan of Arc and her 3 little girls had been shopping for a long time. She bought a lot of clothes, but she didn't do a big cleaning. First, the little girl was making a fuss and wanted to leave. Secondly, I wanted to try on clothes, but I always felt that something was missing without someone. No one gave me any advice. Although the salesperson was praising me, the flattering voice was really worrying. Even if you give advice sincerely, aesthetics is a problem. Even if you are a ship girl, she will not look good if she wears colorful clothes. After buying clothes, I came out of the big shopping mall and took the little girl to the square. There were many people performing shows in the square. She was somewhat interested in the show, but the little girl was not interested. Sichuanzhou is indeed a big city, and ice cream is already available on such a day. Joan of Arc bought each of them an ice cream cone, and just watched them compete to see who could eat it faster, thinking with some worry that this was the generation gap. Everyone walked slowly on the roadside and bought things they wanted to buy. They were not short of money. It's understandable that a ship girl is short of resources, but if she's short of money, she's definitely lazy. Of course, even though I say this, I don't actually buy everything. I want to buy a knife. Can't buy a knife. I want balloons. You're such an adult, and you still play with balloons. I want ice cream. Didn't I just eat it just now? Several requests were rejected. Kong Xiang looked at the little girl looking at the cone and faintly uttered, "It's great to have money." Joan of Arc was not harsh. They actually ate all the way from the street to the end of the street, but some of the little girl's requests were so strange that she had to refuse. Just thinking about running on the street makes people worry about whether they will hit people if they go too fast. There is another thing that makes people worry as well. Joan of Arc held Sukyafu's hand and said, "Sukyafu, please follow us carefully and don't be rash and almost hit the pillar. Think about whether you want to go to the park, but it will take a while to get there. Think about going to the zoo but carrying so many things. It's really difficult to have no travel plans. There are not many places worth visiting near the Grand Circle of Chuangzhou Central Square. The movie theater was not easy to go to, and it was impossible for a little girl to sit there for 2 hours without making a fuss. In the ballroom or the public bathhouse, there are huge signs like red peonies and white roses, which look unseemly at first sight. There is a theater that I can't stand. You can't go to the casino, and bookstores are also not a good idea." Joan of Arc frowned and suddenly heard a voice of fantasy, "Sister Joan of Arc, I want this." She turned around and saw Kong Xiang standing in front of a store, his face almost pressed against the glass, and he seemed to like the products inside. Joan of Arc looked over and saw Sarah staring at a cage. In the cage, there is a mouse running around on the turntable, and another mouse running around on the running wheel. "Let's go." "Rats can't buy it." "It's not a mouse, it's a hamster." "You can't buy hamsters either." Kong Xiang showed a pitiful expression and said coquettishly, "Buy it." Hamsters are super motivated and work so hard. Joan of Arc was carrying 2 bags and wanted to leave, but Kong Xiang tugged at her pants eagerly. "Don't pull my pants. If you don't leave, let's go." Utopia still didn't want to leave, so she squatted in front of the glass, and Joan of Arc couldn't pull her back. After standing for a moment, Joan of Arc walked forward with Vauquelin and Surcouf. Of course, they didn't leave directly, they just walked 100 meters away and then looked back to see if Utopia had followed. Surcouf said worriedly, "The fantasy has not caught up with me yet. Are we really leaving? Will I be abducted by someone in my fantasy?" Even though she knew that she was a ship girl and no one could do anything to her, she was still a little worried when she heard about the traffickers. After all, she is just a little girl. Because of the relationship between her and her heart, a ship girl who looks like a little girl must have a personality like a little girl. If she doesn't encounter special circumstances and grows up, a little girl will remain a little girl her whole life. Veneto is a special case and is not considered. In fact, it is precisely because of this that destroyers and submarines may always be little girls, carrying little cotton-padded jackets that serve as admirals for a lifetime. That's why societies like Would You Like Some Rabbit today are so prosperous, and even if they are suppressed by the authorities, they can still survive in desperate situations. Surcouf was worried that Fantasy might be abducted by human traffickers, but Joan of Arc was not worried at all. Don't look at it as just a girl's fantasy, her mind is full of ghosts and ghosts. Surcouf added, someone passed by. Everyone was far away, and Joan of Arc had expected everyone to be far away, but Fantasy would come flying up. Following Surcouf's voice, she noticed a man standing next to Utopia. When Xiang Xiang raised his head, they said many words. Then the man squatted on the ground. He and Xiang Xiang were looking at the mouse. No, it seemed to be called a hamster. It's no big deal, Joan of Arc was about to say it was nothing, but after a few minutes, she saw Sarah trying to hug the man's neck. We can't really meet human traffickers or kidnappers. No, at this moment, Joan of Arc was also skeptical. She stretched out her hand, her ship uniform, and a long sword appeared in her hand. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 327. It's almost June, and the sun is shining brightly in the city near the south. If you think about it, you can already see big white legs in the streets and alleys. This is a unique scenery of Sichuan show. Sugu took Richelieu shopping for half a morning. Richelieu was not in the mood to shop, not even small jewelry. She thought about helping Beizai with her shopping. She was the kind of person who could get her sister Bismarck's underwear to wear if others didn't help her. However, she actually had a lot of outerwear, and Sugu couldn't help her with her underwear. If there is no shopping, then the only option is to walk around or eat something. A big parasol stood on the roadside, with a dining table placed underneath. For lunch, I chose to sit in a small shop on the roadside. After ordering, the food had not yet arrived. Sugu talked about the tutelage and introduced his important role in the construction of the tutelage. However, Richelieu seemed a little casual. Of course there was a reason for the indifference. Richelieu looked into the distance and explained, the fantasy is there. No one could have imagined that they could meet in such a situation. Fantasy. In fact, when Sugu heard Richelieu talking about it and saw the girl squatting in front of a store in his field of vision, he became a little excited. Fantasy, little princess, the strongest, best and supreme feat. My favorite destroyers are Lafayette and Fantasy. Lafayette turned into a girl due to the transformation, which always makes people feel that something is missing. Fantasy also turned into a girl due to the transformation, but the busted portrait of the other party made people want to stop, and it was enough to control the gospel. I'll go over and take a look. Although the time is noon, it is not a holiday or the rush hour for commuting. There are a lot of cars and people on the road, but not too many. Sugu crossed the street and walked to Xianxiang. The girl had white hair. Although she was squatting on the ground, her long hair was not dragging on the ground. After all, the game's illustrations were always just a way of expression. Looking from the back to the front, it's impossible to see her appearance clearly, but from the back, she has a slim figure. Xiao Zai has already obtained his favorite little girls, and he has also obtained Lafayette, so obviously the girl in front of him is still missing. Come to think of it, Lord Suk Bader is equally good. Games aside, Sigs by the Little Goblin is awesome. I really like it now. Sugu then concluded for himself that it was too arbitrary. The thing that Sarah was staring at was a cage with a hamster behind the glass. Richelieu had already confirmed it, and she was beautiful and had white hair. Although Joan of Arc and the others were not around, probably somewhere else, the girl in front of her was undoubtedly dreaming. Hamster, hamster, Sugu saw that the girl squatting on the ground didn't notice him, and he snapped his fingers. Fantasy is a cute girl, so Sugu with his hands behind his back is like a weird man holding a lollipop or a goldfish guy. No, now it's hamster guy. However, Dream is obviously not a little girl who can be kidnapped with a lollipop, so of course Sugu wants to be a rich man with a lot of money. Deliberately lowering his voice, Sugu said, "What are you looking at?" Hamster. The girl obviously didn't recognize her. Golden Bear. Sugu still recognized some hamsters, such as Pudding, Silver Fox, and the old man and the old woman. "What do you want? Tell me, uncle." Sugu just spoke, thinking that calling him uncle made him look older. Although there is no problem in calling such a girl uncle, but no, how can he be the uncle of such a cute girl? The older you are, the more likely it will be a bad influence in the future. But I couldn't say the word brother, so I still had to save my face. Sugu imitated Xianxiang and squatted down, but the girl beside him still couldn't bear to look back. He looked at Xianxiang's long white hair and pink earlobes, and inexplicably felt that he was a little perverted. The voice of fantasy came over, "If you want to do anything, I will kick you to death. I am a ship girl, and I will do what I say." What a cruel little princess, you just want this kind of momentum, but it's a pity that we are your admiral. Sugu said, "Which one do you want to buy? I will give it to you." Utopia is completely irrational. For a girl, she doesn't care what strangers say, and even if she wants to buy one, she can't just buy one. Utopia's face was almost pressed against the glass as she said, "Stingy. You can't keep more than one hamster, unless you have one male and one female." As Sugu said this, he felt a little nostalgic for hearing his classmates talk about raising hamsters. The hamster mother gave birth to a lot of babies, and 2 were missing every other day, and 2 were missing every other day. When my classmates talked about this, I still can't forget that expression. Even though Sugu deliberately lowered his voice, it was not that powerful. People who were familiar with it would be able to hear it. At this time, he noticed something was wrong. Kong Xiang turned his head to look at Sugu and said, "How can there be such a statement?" Before she finished speaking, Kong Xiang saw Sugu's face and took a step back. Without saying anything, she turned to look at the hamster in the store and said, "The hamster keeps running. Life lies in teleportation. The hamster is tired of running." The 2 hamsters in the cage had gotten off the running wheel and turntable and started running around in the wood chips. After just running for a moment, another hamster climbed onto the running wheel. Sugu said, "As long as you are alive, you must keep moving. Only stop when life reaches the end. What if I fall? It's better to get up after a fall. You have to kiss me. Your request is irresistible." Sugu said, "Of course." "No, no, why did you say it as a matter of course, and why did this passage give people an increasingly perverted feeling?" Sugu thought to himself that if there were military police nearby, he would definitely be arrested. A pervert like himself who committed such a heinous crime would definitely be whipped with a whip soaked in salt water. The voice stopped, and after a moment, Kong Xiang said, "Do hamsters need to be a male and a female to be kept together? One male and one female." Saying this, she turned her head and reached out to hug Sugu. Your words were very ambiguous, and Sugu showed a smile. He had long been accustomed to meeting his ship girl, feeling the embrace of Utopia, feeling the little hands on his body, and feeling the girl's warm body. Sugu called out, "Utopia." Sugu imagined the girl calling him Admiral. After waiting for a moment, there was no sound from the other side, and there was no response from Utopia. Then Kong Xiang let go of her arms around Sugu. She pursed her lips, with a sly smile on her face, and said, "If you want me to call you, catch up with me. If you catch up with me, I will promise you no matter what you do." Before Sugu could answer, Kong Xiang ran away like the wind in front of him. Kong Xiang ran ahead, and Sugu wondered whether he should really chase him, and then he heard Beizai's voice behind him. "I thought that as long as I ran fast enough, loneliness wouldn't be able to catch up with me." Sugu reached out and clenched his fist and hit Beizai on the head, finally shutting up Beizai. However, Kong Xiang ran very fast and was now standing in the distance, waving towards him with his hands crossed. "That means, chase me, you can't catch me." Kong Xiang stood on the side of the road, laughing and dancing, making faces at Sugu, then turned around and tried to continue running. Then, of course, Kong Xiang hit a fire hydrant. It is not a real world in the first place, so fantasy has one attribute, which is 100% chance of falling down. This is the real little princess. Sugu chased after him. Kong Xiang's mouth opened slightly, showing a miserable expression. "Is everything okay?" Xian Xiang didn't speak, and then said, "Admiral, Commander, General." Xian Xiang fell down again. Sugu lowered his body, and Xian Xiang immediately wrapped his arms around his neck like a koala. Remembering what Beizai said just now, he reached out and hugged Kong Xiang. On the other side, Joan of Arc is holding her sword. In fact, as she got closer, she could see the male's appearance clearly. Then she saw Richelieu and Beizai again. Joan of Arc looked towards Richelieu. Richelieu nodded. She already understood that it was her admiral. There was just one thing that was a little puzzling: why he didn't want to put away his long sword at all. The sword was trembling with a sense of mission. "Lord, I am entrusted with this body to destroy evil spirits. Lolita control, kill them all." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 328. The encounter in the center of Chuangzhou City was just an ordinary encounter. Yuan Xiang was not the sentimental girl. There were no curses, accusations or misunderstandings. She just ran away with a sly look on her face, and of course she hit a fire hydrant. It was so natural that it made people wonder whether she really wanted to run away or was just being coquettish. Although the ship girl does not have superhuman running abilities, she is not slow, especially a destroyer like Utopia, which is famous for its speed in the game. Kong Xiang hit the fire hydrant. Sugu ran over, felt the girl wrap her arms around his neck, and picked her up behind him. "My body is light and soft and easy to push down. I am indeed right, I am not alone in my ways. Utopia has fallen again. It doesn't matter." Sugu came back holding Nuan Huan. Although Nuan Huan was no longer a little girl, it was a joke. How could she be tired? There would be no problem if she hugged her for another 100 years. Kong Xiang ran a long distance, and Sugu carried her back. Many people looked at them along the road, passers-by, girls handing out leaflets, shop assistants. After all, Tuan Xiang was not a little girl, and Sugu's appearance clearly did not look like that of Tuan Xiang's father, which had to make people suspicious. If she hadn't imagined that she had white hair and looked independent, making people wonder if she was a ship girl, the police would have been called around. No, the police are being called now, but it's just the gendarmerie. Just holding on to their fantasy, their pace was slow along the way because of their fantasy. It took the two of them a long time to get back to the pet shop. When Sugu went back, he saw a blonde woman carrying a handbag. She dragged her sword, looking righteous. Well, obviously there is no way to tell Genji from his appearance or temperament, mainly from his chest. Sugu had already communicated with Richelieu and knew who was in their group. The mature blonde woman must be Joan of Arc. It's just that if you hold a long sword on the street, it will have a bad impact. Sugu said, "Joan of Arc is back." Yes. With this response, Joan of Arc put away the long sword. Sugu looked at the two little girls next to him. The brown-haired little girl was Wok Erland, who was once known as the white-skinned god of war in the game. Then the other one is obviously Sukuf, the cannon submersible Sukuf. At first I had no idea about this local girl, but I started to create it after seeing her swimsuit sketch. After all, that swimsuit is too cute. After that, it was built smoothly, but it was thrown away until the swimsuit officially appeared, and the leveling was not started. Sukuf has long, wavy hair and a more childish expression than Vauquelin, and his face is now red with embarrassment. She was wearing a pink dress with a ruffled neckline, lantern sleeves, and a pleated skirt. To a certain extent, she looked more like a little princess than a fantasy little princess. Of course, because of her chest, it would be more appropriate to call her a young traitor. Now she timidly held Joan of Arc's hand and hid behind Joan of Arc, looking frightened. At this time, Sugu finally put down his fantasy and said, "Walkoland, Sukuf, don't you recognize me?" Vauquelin blinked and said, "Sister Richelieu disappeared this morning. Did she just go to see the Admiral? She didn't even tell us." Richelieu's idea had already been mentioned to Sugu. After all, rumors spread from Sichuanjiu to the far west. No one knows whether the rumors are true or false. It is said that the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. There is no need for the little girl to bear this kind of disappointment. Sugu reached out and touched Vauquelin's head, but Sukuf was still hiding behind Joan of Arc. When Richelieu let it slip in the cabin, Vauquelin knew something must be going on, and that's why everyone went to Chuangziu. They just didn't think of it. In short, she wasn't too surprised. Utopia is entirely due to a big heart, and you can adapt to it immediately. At this time, Sukuf was the only one who was confused. Sugu didn't know why Sukufu didn't plan to get close to him. Even so, Sugu had to work hard to have a good relationship with his ship girl. He said, "Sukufu. Let the Admiral give him a hug." Sugu smiled. If Sukuf was just an ordinary little girl, then of course everything would be normal. But with Sukuf's figure, it's really not easy for anyone to hold her casually, even though she is still a little girl. However, Sukuf still looked shy, so Sugu could only give up. He looked at Joan of Arc and others and said, "Where are you going? Plan to take them to the playground or park? Have you eaten?" "Not yet." "Let's go together." Seeing everyone preparing to go back, Kong Xiang quickly grabbed Sugu's clothes and said, "Hamster, Hamster." No matter how important it was to meet the Admiral, Hamster could not forget it. Sugu looked at Kong Xiang, who slowly tilted his head, looking like, "Don't you want to?" Sugu finally bought hamsters for Nuan Xiang, but Nuan Xiang didn't want to buy one hamster anyway, so he ended up buying two. "I also bought 2 cages. If I use one cage, I am really worried that something will happen." Soon after returning to the roadside shop, Sugu said, "Where did you go this morning?" "Shopping malls and shopping malls. Sister Joan of Arc said she would take us to the amusement park. She has been buying clothes." Don't think that little girls don't understand anything. They know very well and understand that whether it is Richelieu or Joan of Arc, it is obvious that they do not have a high status as their own admirals, and they immediately vomited bitterness. Although women have the magical ability to never get tired no matter how much they go shopping, they are still little girls and have no expectations or interest in shopping. The underwear that Sister Joan of Arc bought is black, and the underwear is tied with a string. "Admiral, let me tell you, it's so erotic." Joan of Arc drank the juice, and when she heard the fantasy words, all the juice squirted out. I wanted to explain, but found it difficult to explain and simply ignored it. "Yesterday when we were having dinner, the boss said about the overpass, Admiral, is that true? It's very troublesome to stay on a passenger ship. I'm stuck in the cabin every day and can't run. Sister Richelieu reads a book every day. At night, I secretly read it and it turned out to be a romance novel. When Surcouf went out, he always someone was staring at her. Are those people Lilicon? The escort of the passenger ship was Galatea. I greeted her and chatted with her. She told me that she had been to many places. Is Sister Akagi in the Naval Academy? We also have a Naval Academy over there, is it the same? I wanted to go and have a look before, but everyone said that there are many traffickers there who specialize in abducting ship girls, but I'm not a kid. I'm a girl, so I won't be cheated. Anyway, they will definitely not be able to catch up with their dreams. If you don't let me go, I still go there secretly. Richelieu listened to the corners of his eyes twitching. So you are taking advantage of my absence to run around the world? It was a good thing nothing happened. She raised her hand and hit Utopia on the head. Hearing Xian Xiang's words, Sugu said, Shi Kong is an instructor here, then. Richelieu shook his head and said, no, I have been there and have not met our sisters from the garrison. It's been half a year since the town garrison was established. Wanting to talk about something serious, Kong Xiang suddenly said, Admiral, where should we go? Let me think about it. Sugu was familiar with this place. After all, he had taken on the task of taking care of Sixby and the others, which made Fletcher breathe a sigh of relief. So what goes around comes around. When I took San Juan to Fletcher, Thatcher easily opened the door. Although he is a destroyer, Fletcher's figure is a compliment. Sugu said, let's buy some things later, and then go to the amusement park tomorrow. I walked for a long time in the morning. Kong Xiang said this, kicked off his small leather shoes, curled up his legs and sat on the chair, wearing a pair of white stockings. She found Sugu staring at her and moved her toes. Despite this, Sugu was unmoved. He was not a foot control, and his fantasy was just a little girl. He didn't have any big ideas. I just looked at the sky and thought, it's summer, I should wear sandals. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 329. Under a parasol on the street side of Chuangziu, Kong Xiang took off her shoes and squatted on the seat. Although she was wearing white stockings and couldn't see her bare feet, it was already a rare sight. At this time, she shook the cup and drank it all in one gulp. If it weren't for the faint aroma of mango that came out of the cup, people would have thought that she had just blown a whole glass of wine boldly. After finishing everything, Kong Xiang looked at the store, saw the ice cream machine, and then turned to look at Sugu. She was an energetic girl. She slapped the table and said, Admiral, I want to eat ice cream. Sugu waved his hand and said, you can buy whatever you want to eat. Money. Sugu took out a few coins and Richelieu said, it's not good to feed them too much. It's easy to develop bad habits. Oh, no, Admiral. Kong Xiang quickly put away the money and spoke in a very long voice. If the Admiral doesn't allow it, even if he has money, he won't do it. It doesn't matter, play when you should play, work when you should work, although there doesn't seem to be anything that requires work. Anyway, she is a ship girl, so she won't have a bad stomach. Sugu had no choice but to look at the dreamy and expectant look in his eyes. He was as indifferent as Richelieu, and since it was just ice cream, there was really no need to care too much, especially since it was hard to get the money back. Sugu had already made his decision, and Richelieu did not continue to persuade him. Then Kong Xiang came back happily with the ice cream. She stood next to Sugu and said, Admiral, do you want to taste it? I can give you a lick. How could you refuse me like this? Thinking in his mind, Su looked around and found Joan of Arc staring closely at him. Hey, what's up with that look on your face that's guarding against thieves? Sugu said, eat it yourself. I don't know if it's because everyone is here, but the roadside shop that was originally doing bleak business is now full of people not long after everyone came here. It's a bit narcissistic to think like this, but there is a young trader like Sukov, an energetic little princess like Kong Xiang, and Beizai who makes people feel protective just by looking at them, plus Richelieu looks like a royal sister. In fact, it's not surprising to think so, it's beautiful and delicious. Do you still eat roasted corn? Do you want some skewers? I don't want to eat it. Sarah wanted a cup of ice cream, and Vauqueland ordered juice, and soon lunch was coming to an end. After eating something at a roadside shop, it was already around 3 o'clock. I originally wanted to go to the amusement park, but I definitely can't go at this point. The large amusement park was originally located in the suburbs of Chuangziu, and it took some time to build it. And now the amusement park is said to be unsafe. I wanted to take Kotaku, Sixby, and the other destroyers to the amusement park, but in the end I just went to the barbecue. There are small playgrounds in the city center. Those are only for children. They are nothing more than seesaws and the like. They are not even as good as those in the governor's mansion. Sugu is not going to take them there. After eating, I could only continue shopping, but this time I just helped the little girl and the others buy things. When shopping in Chuangziu, if you want ordinary goods, you just have to go to the underground mall. It is a large shopping mall composed of hundreds of small shops. Compared with the goods in the building, there are more types and cheaper prices. Of course, the quality is also lower. Worse. They stopped in front of a store, where Joan of Arc took Vauquelin and Sir Cook to choose clothes. Kong wanted to place the hamster cage on the bench at the entrance of the store. She stretched out a finger to poke at the hamster hanging in the air by the wire of the cage. Sugu saw the hair accessories hanging on the wall, including a rabbit ear headband. I just wish you could try this hairband on. Well, he just wanted to satisfy the evil thoughts in his heart. Happy to try anything, Sarah stopped teasing the hamster, put the headband on her head, and turned it around. Yuan Huan originally had white hair and white rabbit ears, which gave him a certain feeling, but it was just a destroyer, which made people feel a little melancholy. After trying the rabbit ear headband, he also tried the cat ear headband, and tried them one by one. Kong Xiang touched the headband on his head with both hands and said, "If you wear these bear ears, you will become Spy Kuma." The pocket-class battle cruiser Admiral Graf Spee, Suguhen didn't notice the bear ears on her head. The Admiral Graf Spee has gone somewhere, and what about her bear ears? But Xiang was wearing a headband with bear ears and baring his teeth and claws at Sugu. That look was 100% cute. Sugu pursed his lips and said to the young boss, "These guys packed them for me." They went together with dreams, but they didn't buy too many things, but the time passed very quickly at the end of the day. When the sun was getting ready to set, Sugu led a large group of people and walked into the college. Naturally, he received a lot of attention along the way. Back at the entrance of the college, Sugu looked up at the sky and thought, at this point, Akage should have finished teaching. I originally agreed to attend her lectures, but there was nothing I could do about it because of the relationship between Richelieu and others, but it would be too much to go out in the morning and not go back until evening. After walking into the college and returning to the residence, I immediately saw Akage kneeling in front of a short table, like a wife waiting for her husband to come home. The only discordant thing was probably that Zeppelin was with her. Chibolin stared at Sugu with an unkind expression and said, "You're back at this hour? Do you know how long we've been waiting for you? I asked Akage to have dinner, and she insisted on waiting for you to come with me. What a heinous crime it is to make Shikung not eat." Sugu said, "I won't be back immediately." Zeppelin saw Richelieu and the others and said, "Don't say it's your ship girl again. That is." Opening her mouth and shutting it again, Zeppelin didn't know what to say for a moment. She said, "Although I am not an admiral, people like you really deserve to be beaten." Zeppelin stayed in the garrison for a long time, and the relationship was not just that of student and instructor. In fact, there is a lot of difference between the admiral and the ship girl now, but they are just good friends, and Zeppelin actually doesn't have much heirs. Zeppelin was not his ship girl originally. Sugu introduced everyone's identities to her, and then introduced Zeppelin's identity to Richelieu and the others. Kong Xiang said, "Admiral, is this the most powerful light aircraft carrier you said?" Sugu raised his hand and put it on Xian Xiang's head. No one in the destroyer could make him feel at ease. We didn't choose to eat out for dinner. We all went to the college's cafeteria together. Although it is just a cafeteria, the cafeteria here is not like the university cafeteria in Sugu's memory. There are not many people in the college, and most of the cafeteria is to serve the faculty and staff of the college. The canteen is in charge of the ship girls, and they will not do anything to line their own pockets. The canteen has a rich variety of food and enough oil and water, but it is different from the ship girl headquarters where Helena was originally located. Bills need to be paid here. First, he took Richelieu and the others to cook, and Sugu came last. Everyone ordered something and found a place to sit down. Sugu ordered the food and took his own plate. Just as he was about to walk back, he heard two greetings. "Sumao, Sumao, this way." Sugu turned around and saw Lu Jianshu and Daniang. He was about to go over, and then bang, he was hit by someone, and then he saw Sukuf with a panicked look on his face. "Sukuf, don't follow me. Go to your sister Richelieu. I'll go back later." Sugu signaled Sukuf, who was following him, to go to Richelieu and the others, not to follow him in a daze, and then walked to Lu Jianshu and Daniang. Sugukai sat down and Daniang said, "Do you know that Richelieu? In the morning, I saw Richelieu and Richelieu sitting next to Sugu. But I was far away and couldn't hear what was being said." Although he cursed his friend severely, from a distance, it seemed that the relationship between Richelieu and Sugu was nothing more than friends. But then I saw them leaving together, and now I see them together in the cafeteria. I was very surprised. "Yes, how do you know she is Richelieu?" Daniang looked at Lu Jianshu, who said, "The mountain man has his own clever plan." "That's your friend." "That's my ship girl." "You guys don't have so many ship girls." "How about I say it's because I'm handsome?" "You have to be a little careful when you lie." "Then that is a story that is both evocative and evocative indeed. When I built Richelieu, it was already a long time after the game time, and so many resources were thrown away. Of course, it is an evocative story." "Bitch." Amid the driving sounds of the two men, Sugu returned to his team. A dining table can seat up to 4 adults. Richelieu, Joan of Arc and 3 little girls filled one table. Sugu sat down at the table in Akagya. He said, "Richelieu, do you know that Lu Jianshu? That's the one over there." Richelieu followed Sugu's line of sight and said, "Yesterday, Kong Xiang was robbed with his wallet, so I chased him. Later I saw him, with his wife, and it seemed that he wanted to help me. But it's not necessary." Sugu said, "He asked me what my relationship is with you." "What did the admiral say?" "I just said that I am my ship girl, and they are very envious." Sugu smiled. No one doesn't like exaggeration, explicit praise, side praise, and he does not hesitate to use any method to make his ship girl happy. Richelieu snorted lightly and said, "Admiral, needless to say, I'm far behind." Sugu said, "Don't underestimate yourself, you are a very powerful battleship." "Then what mission do I have after I go back?" "Attack." But compared to Bismarck and the others, I can't fight. Richelieu was very concerned about this. She didn't want to live a life of sitting in the garrison doing nothing every day. "Although I know that if I come back, I will probably be the same as before. Although recognition is important, staying by the admiral's side is more important." Sugu said, "It doesn't matter if you don't need to fight. If I don't fight, I don't know what to do. Richelieu also eats a lot as a battleship. If it were to attack, Bismarck or Bazai would definitely be more suitable, but it would be a bit cruel to say such an idea. But, does it mean that you only need to stay in the town hall? Material needs are the lowest level needs, while social needs, esteem needs and self-realization are the highest level needs. After frowning for a long time, Sugu said, "You just need to be happy." Richelieu stopped talking and had nothing to say. She lowered her head and cut the steak with a knife. Sheik Hung looked at the scene and realized that she and Sugu had known each other very early. Sugu's every change was reflected in her heart. From the past, he was still coy even when facing Lexington, and then he actually gave Helena a ring, and even gave it to herself. Although she still doesn't, it took a lot of courage to pounce on me, but it's already much better. She drank the thick soup in the bowl in one gulp and thought to herself, now the Admiral is really getting better and better at flirting with girls. Sure enough, everyone is trained. After dinner, not long after, everyone went to watch the night view together in the evening. In fact, there is nothing interesting to see in Sichuan show at night. It is said to be a beautiful night view. Sichuan show is not a tourist city after all. At night, it is just about watching the neon lights along the streets. By the bridge where the stalls were originally set up in Leipzig, I listened to people singing several songs and walked around the pedestrian street at night, and then the night's activities came to an end. Soon everyone went back to their homes. After all, Akagi's residence couldn't accommodate that many people. By the next morning, before Sugu had gotten up, there was a knock on the door early. Sugu opened the door and said, "So early? Admiral, Admiral, let's go to the zoo today. I want to see cheetahs, roar." Shishin's teaching would take several days, so Sugu took the opportunity to take everyone for a walk. Bazai didn't follow her these days. She insisted on staying in the room, and Sugu didn't bother to pay attention to her. He fully played the role of a tour guide, just holding the red flag. But he is more like a parent than a tour guide. Don't climb trees. Don't put your hands in the cage. There are wild monkeys on the mountain next to the zoo. I don't know if I can see them today. You naughty kids. The three little girls, no matter how beautiful they are still at an age where gods and ghosts hate them. After another day, Akagi finally ended his teaching, and the admirals left one after another. After being out for a few days, I was almost ready to go back. Richelieu and the others came from the west without much luggage. Compared with when they brought the Prince of Wales and the others with a whole yacht, their luggage was really pitiful. When I set off from Chuangziu in the morning and returned to my garrison, noon had not yet arrived. Sugu led everyone into the town hall. Kong Xiang looked at the huge town hall and said, "Is this our town hall?" I finally returned to the town hall. I no longer have to live in a small church. Even a small church there's no place to run. Back in the office, Lexington was inside and asked her to arrange for Richelieu and the others. Sugu drank a glass of water in the office, and then Saratoga sneaked up to him. "Brother-in-law, when I went to look at the ring you put in the cabinet yesterday, I found that one was missing." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 330. The sun was shining, there was no wind, and the sea was calm. Sugu drove the yacht back to his townhouse from Chuangziu. Akagi and Bazai left separately, and Sugu took everyone to the office. In the office, Lexington was sitting by the window holding a book. The sun was shining on her body. She reached out and lifted her long hair and tucked it behind her ears. Then she turned another page of the book, looking quiet and beautiful. Appearance. Beside her, Saratoga stood slim in a cyan skirt. "Lexington," Sugu called. Lexington raised his head in surprise and said, "Ah, the Admiral is back," and Sugu said, "Richelieu and Joan of Arc, as well as Utopia, Vauquelin and Sukhov, we met them in Chuangziu." So coincidental. It's not a coincidence, this is what happened. He recounted what happened. After everyone said hello, Sugu saw that everyone was still carrying their things, and he said, "Let's not talk about it for now. There are still many spare rooms in the governor's mansion. Lexington, please make arrangements, put down the things, and I will drink some water first." Lexington took Richelieu and the others to choose a room. The dormitory was above the office. All the way up the stairs, Lexington said, "The Admiral has always said that if everyone hears the news, he will definitely come back, and I think it should be the case. It's just that I never had the opportunity to become famous before, until I found Bismarck and the North. We stayed at home until we counterattacked and the Prince of Wales. Later we encountered the deep-sea flagship Yamato. The enemy was strong enough and we were sure of victory. Only then did we have a chance. Everyone's room is ready from the beginning. It just needs to be tidied up a little bit. If you want something, just go to the warehouse and get it. The warehouse manager is Leipzig. If the warehouse doesn't have it, just register it with Leipzig. Okay, I will buy it for you when the time comes. You have lived for such a long time, so don't be polite." Richelieu listened to Lexington's talk and nodded. Lexington and the others left first, while Sugu stood aside to drink water, preparing to follow after all. After all, he was the admiral. After everyone left, Saratoga, who had been silent until now, said, "Brother-in-law." Saratoga looked at Sugu drinking water and said, "Brother-in-law, why is the ring you put in the cabinet missing?" There was no reaction for a moment, and water almost spurted out of his mouth. Sugu said, "What's missing?" "The cabinet, inside the cabinet. You originally had 2 rings in it, but now there is only 1. Sugu finally understood what Saratoga was talking about. "So why was there 1 missing ring?" "Yes, I gave that ring to Akage, so there is 1 missing. Then the next day after giving the ring, I followed Akage to Chuangziu, and seemed to have forgotten to tell everyone. But this kind of thing can't be done in the governor's mansion. Just send an invitation to everyone, and then ask everyone to give a big red envelope, otherwise they will be killed." Sugu wanted to change the topic. "Why do you know I have a ring?" "Because I went to your room to look through it." Saratoga's expression and tone were so matter-of-fact, Sugu was speechless. "There are no secrets in my room, and I don't have the habit of writing a diary. Everyone can come and go at will. Usually, money, keys, admiral certificates, etc. are just thrown on the table and ignored. After all, there is no need to worry about theft in the garrison." At first, Akage gave himself a ring and left it alone. Later, he got another ring from Helena. If you get 2 rings, you won't deliberately tell them about it, but if Saratoga is rummaging around in his room and finds the ring, he won't deliberately hide it. When I was suddenly asked about it at this time, I felt that it shouldn't be the case. Sugu said, "Why do you think there is less? Stolen? Like the South Dakota? Really innocent or fake?" Sugu looked at Saratoga. Saratoga blinked. Sugu said, "Because I took it away." "Why did you only take 1 and not the other? Did you put the 2 rings separately?" "Why did I only take 1?" Saying this, Sugu felt a little guilty. He can't have the attitude of "if you get married, you take care of me." However, I wanted to slow down, but there was no way. There was no way to hide this kind of thing. He couldn't ask Akage to get the ring back, nor could he tell Akage to stop wearing the ring in the future. Sooner or later, he would be discovered. For a long time, Sugu hesitated and said, "The ring was given to Akage. Did you give it back to her?" "No, married." Saratoga fiddled with the hem of her skirt with her fingers and suddenly raised her head. "Married? That means you proposed to Akage with the ring." Sugu thought to himself that it would be more appropriate to say that Akage had snatched a ring. Under Akage's eyes, he felt that it would be a great sin for him not to give the ring, so he gave it to her. Of course, these words must not be said. Sugu said, "Yes. It's all my fault." Saratoga gritted her teeth, "You are not wrong, I knew it was that foxy girl. You are so considerate, what should I do?" Sugu watched Saratoga turn around and prepare to leave, and asked, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to kill someone." Of course Saratoga couldn't kill anyone. She just sat next to Sugu during lunch. Then he looked at everyone who was close to Sugu, such as Leipzig, San Juan, and Richelieu, who had just returned. Counterattack was the top priority, which made the counterattack somewhat inexplicable for a while. Sugu ignored his sister-in-law. He had nothing to do with her. He thought, at worst, he could just make up for it later. Sugu took the chopsticks and searched the cafeteria. Then he saw a small figure. He quickly shouted, "Xiaozai, come here." He had not seen Xiaozai until now, but he finally saw it this time. He hadn't seen him for a long time and was very worried. "Miss." He patted the seat next to him and motioned for Xiaozai to sit over. Then when Xiaozai came over, he started to rub Xiaozai's face. "What have you learned these days?" "Arithmetic, Chinese and natural sciences." "Utopia is back, have you seen it?" "I saw her, she was over there, with Lafayette." "If you don't play with them, aren't they your good friends?" "Yeah, but I miss the Admiral." Sugu stopped chewing. He couldn't help it. Xiaozai was too cute. However, he knew that Xiaozai was a ghost, so he could just believe half of what she said. Then he saw Xiaozai looking to the side, which was the direction of Lafayette and fantasy. He let Xiaozai go and let Xiaozai find his friends to play with. As Xiaozai left, "Jia Jia, have a good meal. Come and see what you are doing in the past. Counterattack comes and goes in front of you. San Juan is now learning to show her cat ears, she has learned bad things, and York City is the weirdest. Counterattack and San Juan can understand, but what about York City?" Sugu turned around and saw York City actually coming over with a dinner plate. York City took the initiative to sit next to him, which was a rare thing. Sugu said, "What's the matter with you?" York City has always been tough talking, so she said, "If you don't have anything to do, can't you come over?" After saying this, she suddenly thought that if she had to come over if there was nothing to do, wouldn't that mean that she loves the Admiral and wants to sit with him? She blushed slightly. York City sat next to Sugu, rolled up a ball of noodles with chopsticks, and said, "That." "Which one?" This was not Sugu's voice, but Saratoga's. York City looked at Saratoga and found that Saratoga had been looking at him, feeling a little uncomfortable. He hesitated and said to Sugu, "Admiral, I will talk to you later." Saratoga said proudly, "York City is also a fox." Sugu looked at his sister-in-law and said, "Jia Jia, you are crazy." Saratoga smirked. Sugu looked at York City, who suddenly came and then left, and asked Lexington, "What did York City do a few days ago?" "She just came back from an expedition."